Okay, so welcome to the complete rate cut documentation, and today I will be guiding you step by step to in order to understand the complete workflow, the complete pipeline that we have built for this new client for rate cut. And so essentially, first of all, we will have a generic look at how the architecture is being set up for this project, and then we will dive into detail into each of these components and what exactly are they doing here. And here is a general overall diagram in order to understand basically what's happening and to get a sort of a holistic view of the scenario that's at play here. So essentially in this project we have basically, you can say, three different modes. They are sort of interconnected, but they are essentially, there are three different use cases we have to tackle here. And so RateCut is basically a mortgage based company, and they wanted an AI voice agent both for inbound and for outbound calling. And essentially the three scenarios that are at play here are the database reactivation, the coming of a new lead, and then an inbound call. And so we will go into detail into each of these separate scenarios and see how all of them combine under this single architecture and how the data flows through this whole pipeline. And just as a note for this diagram, I have added the name of the exact workflows of NA10 and as well as Zapier alongside their nodes. And so if you have the access to NA10 and Zapier, you can um, view those workflows by their name. So this is the exact name of the NA10 workflow that is at play here. And let's try to understand the architecture from a holistic view, sort of. And let's start with the database reactivation part. And so the database reactivation essentially means that we will have some leads that have become dormant, that are like 6 to 7 days old or haven't been contacted yet. So what we have to do is basically we want to reactivate them, get them again into the system, get them rolling, just to sort of get the most out of them, right? And so the way that we are gonna do is we will be using our Coolify app that is custom built for this particular purpose. And what that app does is basically just you upload a list of leads in a CSV file, and then it goes into this pipeline. So the first step in understanding the database reactivation part is that as a prerequisite you need to have a CSV file containing those leads that you want to send into the reactivation pipeline. And so once you have that CSV, you will come here, and essentially this is the Coolify AI. If you have the access to it, you will open up this page, and the API and integrations part is already set up. So what you need to do here is just give the webhook URL for the workflow that you want to activate when the CSV leads are uploaded onto this platform. So essentially what it will do is you will go to the database reactivation part, and here you can see all of their details. And so there are total campaigns, the active campaigns, and the completed campaigns. What you have to do here is that you have to click on a new campaign, and this is the main interface that you will be presented with. And in this interface basically you have to upload the lead files here. So you can also see the format of the exact format of the CSV, and this is, you have to follow this exact word by word, otherwise it won't work. You have to give the first name, last name, email, phone, company website, address of the lead. You can leave any of the field empty if you want, but most probably you want to give the email and phone, because we will be making a contact for this lead inside of our CRM. And then if there is any other custom value that the lead has, you can provide that as well here. And after you upload the CSV file, you essentially give a name to the campaign, and this n8n webhook URL will already be configured, and it is already configured to send all of the payload to this particular n8n workflow, which is basically this one here. So this is the second step in our workflow. So after you upload the leads here, you can also provide some reactivation notes, and you can essentially say anything here like this campaign is, for example, about a new discount that we are offering. And so what this will do is that these notes will go to the AI agent, and the AI agent will write a personalized message that is to be sent to all of these leads that you have uploaded here. And essentially these notes will help the AI decide how to better personalize that message. So yeah, whatever you write here will go as an information to the AI agent. Then you have to give the scheduling and timing. You can specify anything here as you like. Then you have to give the batch size, the batch interval, so essentially the time between batches, and the lead delay. And after customizing all of these things, you just have to click on launch reactivation campaign, and that's all you gotta do here. After that, the pipeline will start running and everything will work on its own. So after you complete this, let's assume that you did all of this, you sent all of the leads using your custom scheduling as well as the custom batch configuration. Let's say after you click this button, launch reactivation campaign, what will happen is you come to the second step. The second step is basically all of those leads will go to this n8n workflow. So I'm not going to go into too much detail right now. We're going to just have a quick look to just understand how the data flow is working, and then we will go into detail into each of these modules. And so from n8n, all of the leads will get processed and they will get sent to Go High Level, where we have a dedicated Go High Level workflow which will essentially do all of the outreaching process. So essentially it will send the SMS, the email, and it will make a contact for the lead if it does not exist in Go High Level. And from there it will again call n8n, and this is a separate workflow. It's called make phone call from retail. So essentially the job of this workflow is to just call retail agent to place the actual phone call, and when the phone call is placed, essentially this retail AI agent gets activated and it triggers an outbound call to that particular lead that has been sent from the CSV data. And after the call is finished, we will extract some basic qualification information, like especially for this client we needed to extract the property type, the value of the property, the number of properties that they own, so that we can in the end qualify that lead. And there's a bunch of stuff that the agent will collect, and then once the call is finished, it will send all of the data into another GHL workflow. So this Go High Level workflow will essentially process all of the incoming data from retail. It will record the history of the call, the summary, the recording URL, as well as it will store all of the qualification info corresponding to that particular lead inside of Go High Level. Then it will move the lead into the corresponding stage of the pipeline. We will see that all of that in detail. And after that, essentially this is the last step where we will sort of sync all of this data to the BeInTouch CRM, which the RateCut client is currently using. So that way we are able to process all of the data and in the end get all of the qualification information to be updated into BeInTouch CRM as well. And as well as BeInTouch CRM, we are also able to update the information of the lead inside of Go High Level. So we are sort of syncing all of these steps in order to ensure data integrity and in order to ensure that all of the data is getting properly saved into CRMs. Okay, so this is a general look of the database reactivation workflow. Now let us dive deep into each of these components and understand how each of them are working in order to support this pipeline. Now we saw how the Coolify app is working. Now when the lead information is sent from Coolify app, this N10 workflow gets triggered. So the name of the workflow is DB reactivation launch campaign, and let us see that particular workflow. So this is that workflow. Essentially what it does is just takes that lead as input, and what it does is basically runs it through an AI agent, and the AI agent has the access to the reactivation nodes that we mentioned previously. It also has all of the details of the lead, and then in the system prompt we have specified that what exactly do you want to do. So essentially here is all of the information regarding rate cut and what sort of offer they are trying to make, so we can customize it as the client wants. So yeah, this is really customizable, but right now it's just a generic system prompt in order to just reactivate that particular lead by sending it probably some new offer or something like that. So once this personalized message is written by this AI agent, we then activate the next step, which is the go high level step. So coming back to this diagram, this was the N10 workflow that we saw here, and so that's all it does. It takes that lead, generates an SMS or an email, and then it triggers go high level. Now we come to the third step, which is the go high level part, which basically starts the outreach. So the name of the workflow is start outreach. As you can see here, this is the name of the workflow, 1-start outreach. So it's triggered based off a webhook, and that webhook is being sent by this N10 workflow right here, you can see. And in there we pass all of the information regarding the lead that we have so far, and like their first name, the last name, the email, their email address, and all of these information we pass it to go high level. And what this workflow does, it basically tries to find a contact. So this go high level workflow start outreach, it first tries to find if that contact exists. If it does not exist, we create the contact in go high level, and then we start sending it the first email and the first SMS. And this email is based off it's based off that personalized email body that we are getting from the AI agent, and the SMS is also sent by the AI agent as well, so we are getting this personalized message as well. And when we send both of the email and the SMS, now the third step is basically we create an opportunity for this client, for this lead, and essentially we create an opportunity in this pipeline. So the name of the pipeline is AI lead pipeline. There are various stages in this pipeline, but right now, because the lead has freshly come inside of go high level, it will be inserted into the pipeline stage called new lead. Because this is a new lead, so it is in this pipeline stage. So that means we haven't done anything right now. It is a new lead. Now what will happen after that is we will trigger N10, and we essentially want to trigger the retail AI agent to make an outbound call to this particular lead that we have just sent here. So what we are doing here is we are sending all of this JSON information, like the name of the contact, the email, the phone, and the most important part here is that we are also sending the call history, the call summary, and the chat history. So in most of the cases this will be a new lead, but it might be possible that this particular lead already existed in our CRM. it existed already in Go high level, and it might have become part of their database reactivation campaign. So in that case, we will have all of the previous conversations, both the chat conversation and the call conversation for this particular lead. So that is why we will send all of this information to the retail AI agent so it can have a better context of what has happened in the past with this particular lead. So triggering this n8n workflow brings us to the workflow that is called make phone call from retail. And this phone call from retail, essentially there are two webhooks uh, in this particular workflow. So this is the one that we're looking right now for database reactivation campaign. So all it does is basically just gathers all of the information from Go high level and sends it to retail agent and places essentially an outbound call. And in that outbound call, we are sending the dynamic variables. So these dynamic variables are accessible to the retail LLM, to the retail AI agent, so that it can better understand who is the lead that the call is being placed to. So as you can see, we have the first name, the email, the phone number, all of those things. That is how the agent is better able to understand the lead. So here is where the call gets placed, and this is the place. If we see here in our diagram, so this is that part. So we went from Go high level start outreach to n8n, and the name of the n8n workflow is make phone call from retail, which I just showed you, this one. And what it does is just places the retail call, and after it places the retail call, the retail AI agent gets activated. And this agent is in particular the outbound agent. And inside of retail, we have made two agents. One of them is the outbound and one of them is the inbound. And so let me show you. The name of the outbound agent is outbound-new RateCut, and the name of the inbound is inbound-new RateCut. Right now, what we are seeing is the outbound agent that is being placed a call for the database reactivation. And here is, you can see all of its prompt, and it has all of the various functions that are needed. So you can go down and see all of the function that it has. It has get contact, update appointment, get available slots, cancel appointments, all of that functionality here. And right now I've just kept the transfer call function as well because we might need it, but we can delete this as well. That will depend on how we want to use this agent. Right now, the way that this agent works is basically it does not transfer the call to a real human. What it does is basically, if the lead says that okay, I want to talk with a real human, transfer my call to a real human, what it does is basically it says okay, I have noted down your request for transferring to a human, so just wait a while, a new or human agent will contact you shortly, and it just ends the call. So this is how it works currently. It does not explicitly transfer the call immediately, but it just says to the lead that okay, a human agent will be in contact with you shortly. So how it works in the back end is basically when the call ends, you can see that there are some post call data extraction variables that we are extracting from this call, and one of that variable is the call outcome. And here are all of the different call outcomes that we can have. So if the client has if the lead has made a book, if the lead has booked a meeting, that is the call outcome. And there are all of the various call outcomes here. Then there is a call outcome that's called call later, or we can rename it to something like transfer to a human, right? So when this is the call outcome, when this call finishes, all of this data is sent to another GHL workflow. As you can see in this diagram, when the call is finished, we extract the qualification info. So we extract the properties like the property type, the property value, right? All of those different values that we needed to extract uh, regarding the qualification info for this particular lead. So we send all of the post call information to this go high level workflow, which is called process call summary. And this is the workflow. It's called one dash process call summary, and it is essentially also triggering based off a webhook. And so it essentially receives all of the post call information, all of this post call data. So things like call summary, call ended reason, the email, interested status, call outcome, etc. And it sends all of that information to this go high level workflow. Now this go high level workflow is responsible for processing all of the data that is being sent by the retail agent. And here is where we update all of the qualification info of that particular lead that the agent has captured during the call. So here we are basically checking that if the event is a call analysis event, because we have to check this because when the retail AI agent is making a call, it does like 2 to 3 webhook calls to our specified webhook, but not all of them are after the call. So for example, it places a call and it sends a webhook, then it ends a call and then it sends a webhook. But we are looking for that particular webhook in which the event is call analyzed. So that means that the call has ended and the agent has also analyzed the post call data, and essentially it has sent all of that data. So now we are ready to process that particular data that the agent has sent. After that, we just check the call type, whether it's inbound or it's an outbound, and we find the contact. After the contact is found, if it's not found, we make a contact, and after the contact is found, we basically see if where that contact is in the opportunity pipeline, and if it does not have an opportunity yet, it will create an opportunity and insert it into the new lead stage of the pipeline. And after that, we see that if the call was actually answered or not. And if the call was actually answered, we essentially set we set the call history, then we set the call history too. And this logic here is just to incorporate multiple call histories. Right now we are only tracking like 2 call histories, and we can do more if you want, but this particular agent will only run 2 times. We can increase it later if we want, but right now that's the way it works. If it has the call history 1, it will populate the call history 2 field, and after that it will basically update all of the incoming information regarding the contact. So let's say the call duration, the call summary, and all of the qualification information as well, that will be updated here in this go high level workflow. So after we have updated the contact information, we will again send a webhook to an N10 that contains all of this data. And the purpose of sending this webhook to an N10 from go high level is because an N10 will then send all of the data to Zapier. So if that's a bit difficult to understand, let's move back to the diagram. We are at this step here, right? We extracted the qualification info and we are now processing the call summary. And there was an additional thing after that we just moved the lead to the next pipeline stage. And so basically if the lead is interested, we move it to that interested stage. If they have booked a call, we move to the book call stage, call booked stage. And if they have a call later, So for example, transfer to human tag, then the lead will be moved to the pipeline stage. That corresponds to the call letter stage. And so essentially that basically helps us to track that, okay, what's the status of this lead. So what you can do is like come to the opportunities tab and see if any lead is inside of this call later, uh, pipeline stage. And if any lead is in this call letter stage, that means that they have requested some human assistance. So yeah, you will need to mark them down and uh, call them for human assistance. And that's where this workflow ends. And now let's move back to the NA10 call. So in this NA10 call, we are essentially sending all of the qualification information regarding this particular lead. So as we have updated this information inside of Go High Level, we also want to update this information in BNTouch CRM as well. So because BNTouch does not have an explicit API, we are forced to use Zapier. And here you can see that in order to send to BNTouch, we have to take this route. So first we send that information to an NA10 workflow, and that workflow is called RateCut post call analysis. And it's basically this workflow. Let me show you. It just has this task. It just sends that information to Zapier, and as you can see in the diagram, the Zapier then sends that all of the qualification info to BNTouch and updates that lead status inside of BNTouch. And this is all that Zapier workflow is doing, is basically catching a webhook and creating or updating a loan inside of BNTouch. So it will find based on the cell phone or the email of the user. If the loan is already existing, it will just update the loan with all of the qualification information. Otherwise, it will create a new loan with all of these qualification information. So that's where this workflow ends, this pipeline ends. So yeah, this is the last step here. In future, we can probably remove this NA10 step and just send directly to Zapier, the webhook call. But this NA10 helps us to like monitor what's happening, and we can essentially configure the lead information how we want. So we can format the number easily in here, and we can also like track the webhook calls better if we use this NA10 step. But in future, if we don't need it, we can just remove this and make the direct connection between GHL and Zapier. So yeah, this was all for the database reactivation part. And one other thing I forgot to mention was that the Retail AI has a bunch of different functions that I just showed you. So it has all of these function calls, and so essentially all of these function calls are being handled by a single NA10 workflow, which is this workflow, which is called the voice engine. And what this voice engine is doing is basically, let me show you. Yeah, it's just a bunch of different functionalities that we have provided for the retail agent, and the retail agent can exploit any of these functions. So for example, it can search for the available slots in the calendar. It can create a new contact in the calendar if the in Go High Level, if the contact is not existing. So for example, first it will get the contact details using the contact details functionality. Then if it does not exist, it can create the contact. Then it can get the available slots. For example, if the user says, okay, I want to book an appointment. So that's how the workflow is, that's how the script is being set, that the agent will prompt essentially the user, the lead, to, hey, if are you available for a quick meeting with one of our mortgage specialists, and what time will suit you. And so if the lead says, okay, I can have a booking, it will say their preferred date and time for the booking. And the agent will then ask, hey, what's your time zone, because it's really important to get their time zone right. And for that particular thing, we have this get time zone function as well. And then there's a particular sub workflow which gets the available slots, and it gets the available slots based on the time zone. So based on the time zone that the user says that, okay, I'm in this time zone, so get those slots for me. And if the slots are available in the user requested time, it will go ahead and use the book appointment functionality here in this n8n workflow, and it will just go ahead and book the appointment. It also has the cancel and the update appointment functionality as well. And this is the voice engine that's powering up all of the different functions that the retail AI agent is able to exploit at any time. And it is being given strict uh, instructions of how to use all of these tool calls, and how to essentially uh, how to proceed with calling all of these functionalities. And yeah, that is the outbound agent. The inbound agent is similar as well, and that is basically everything about the database reactivation. And you can see we saw all of these workflows in detail, and essentially, yeah, this is how the database reactivation is working. So yeah, that was just one part. Now the other part is the new lead. Now coming to this second part, this essentially says that whenever a new lead is created inside of the Be in Touch CRM, we want to watch and we want to include that lead into our pipeline. But we don't want to just immediately send that lead into the pipeline. We first of all want to wait for 5 days. So that's exactly what this Zapier workflow is doing. So this is the Zapier workflow that listens for a new loan. So if a new loan is created, that lead will be inserted into this workflow, and after that it will basically delay for 5 days here. Now we'll change it later, but because right now we are testing, so I've added just this zero point 0.1 minute delay so that I can like test it out. But later what we will do is that we will do this days to like 5, right? So essentially that lead will be kept here for 5 days. After that it will be sent using a webhook call to an n8n workflow, which is evident from this picture, from this architecture diagram here, that we are sending that new lead after the 5 days of waiting are over. We send that lead to this n8n workflow. And if you notice, this n8n workflow is the same as the other one that we already used in the DB deactivation part. And so that workflow is the RateCut dash make phone call from retail workflow, which is this one. Now it has two webhook calls as we mentioned previously. One is for the DB reactivation campaign, one is for the new lead. And previously we saw the DB reactivation campaign. Now we are looking at the new lead from Zapier part. So it's essentially very simple as well. What it does is just takes the incoming information from Zapier and checks if there is it basically creates or updates a contact. That's what it does. If the contact already exists, it just proceeds, and if it does not exist, it just makes a contact, and after that it calls the retail AI agent. And as for the as we saw in the DB deactivation part, we are also sending the dynamic variables in new lead workflow as well. So the first name, the last name, the email, the phone number. So that is how the agent will be able to say, okay, hi John, for example, or hi Ian. So that's more like personalized. Instead of asking the lead for, hey, what's your name, it already knows what their name is, and it already knows their email. So they can go ahead and the agent can book the appointment as well using their email. And so this is this part here. For the new lead, we go from Zapier to the N10 workflow, make phone call from phone call from retail, and this workflow just calls the retail AI agent, places an outbound call, and from here on the rest of the workflow is the same as we just saw for the DB reactivation part. In the end, all of the data will get sent back to be in touch in order to sync it in order to in order to sync it up in both CRMs. And lastly, uh, now the last thing that remains is the inbound workflow. Now the inbound is really similar to database reactivation. So we have a separate agent for the inbound calling as well, and it's basically very similar to the outbound agent. So whenever an inbound call is placed to the retail agent, first of all, before answering that call, the agent triggers an N10 workflow, right? And this is a setting we can specify inside of retail by going to our let me see, yeah, by going to our phone numbers, and essentially we have attached this particular phone number to this particular agent, which is the inbound dash new RateCut agent, and we can also add an inbound webhook to this agent as well. So the benefit of using this inbound webhook is once we have specified this inbound webhook, is basically what it's doing is that it's going to this N10 workflow, the webhook that we just specified, and it's essentially getting all of the contacts information if that contact already exists in our CRM. So the name of the workflow is RateCut-voice get contact details. So this workflow, N10 workflow, is being triggered whenever there is an inbound call, to that particular inbound agent. So what that agent does is, before it answers, it places a webhook call to this particular address, and then as a result this agent gets triggered. What it does is it finds the contact in Go High Level. So if the caller who is calling, if they exist with their particular number inside of Go High Level, we will fetch all of their previous information. So we will fetch their name, their phone number, their email, and any previous history that they have stored in Go High Level. We will also be able to fetch that, and then we will be able to use that information. So when this workflow ends, basically it responds to that web call that the retail agent had placed initially, and it will send all of this information regarding the contact to that agent who is now on the receiving end. And on the receiving end, before that agent accepts the incoming call, it will just quickly go ahead, make the webhook call to this workflow and get all of this user's information. So now the inbound agent knows that, okay, who is calling me, who is the person, what's their name, and what's their email, what's their previous call summaries, what's their chat history, right? That makes all of it very much personalized. And so that's how this particular system is built. A lot of these workflows are using already the templates that are provided by Coolify AI, and So you might be able to get all of these templates from the templates folder. um, I have just used all of those templates for this particular new client for RateCut. And uh, yeah, essentially we went through all of these different workflows, and now I hope you have a better idea of what each of them is doing. And this post call analysis, we also saw this is just sending the data to Zapier in order to send to Be in Touch. So yeah, that was the N10 workflows. There are two workflows in Go High Level. One of them is the start outreach, one of them is a process call summary, and then this is the overall architecture diagram that we just saw. And we covered each of the module in great detail. And yeah, I think now you should have a better idea of how the overall system is working, especially for this client. It's not different from the already existing templates that Coolify AI is already using. It's just that we have basically adapted all of that to this particular client. And yeah, I think that's all that we had to cover. And yeah, this is it.